This is Top of Mind, the Dr. Patrick Slowinski Show.
Well, welcome everyone to Top of Mind with Dr. Patrick Slowinski. I'm your producer, and thanks for joining us today. We'll show why AI is a tool to welcome, not fear, how it can give instant feedback, spark fresh ideas, and potentially free us from tedious tasks. We'll also try and zoom out to the big questions, setting up solid AI governance, handling ethical concerns, and spotting real risks before they bite. Now, without further ado, let me hand things over to the man whose name is on the show to introduce our guests. Dr. Slowinski, to you.
Thank you, Victor. And it's my honor to have don't want to say old friend anymore, right? Because that's just, that's not good. A good friend of mine, Shenoa Simpson, is a former U.S. diplomat like myself. We worked together. Her job is to turn big ideas into real results for companies. She leads Gateway Horizon Consulting, and LinkedIn coach JT O'Donnell helps professionals build standout personal brands. She worked on trade issues with me, and she has a vast public and private sector experience, and she really has honed in on AI. So we've asked her to join the show and share her thoughts and maybe some prognostications about where we're going in terms of AI in the business sector and education and politics. So we're glad to have you here, Shenoa. Thank you. And then our next guest here is Adolfo Carreño. I hope I said that right. Adolfo. All right. Excellent. So he's a change management leader at Citibank, originally from Chile, or Chile, as we say in the States here. Sorry, we don't pronounce it correctly. But he spent 15 years guiding large projects in finance and medical technology. We're working on his doctoral degree too. He's got a couple master's degrees. Just a smart guy. So we wanted to bring some smart people on to talk about AI. And from a psychological point of view, a lot of anxiety with some new technology, particularly this one. Hollywood has affected, I think, and also great science fiction books and movies, I think, have affected our ideas, our preconceived notions of what an artificial intelligence could actually do. And always, I think, as human beings, we're wired. I don't know if you know this, we're wired to survive. We're wired to look for threats. And I think a lot of us see something that we don't really understand, like AI, as a potential threat, either in the short term or the long term. And if you ever read I, Robot, then you know what I'm talking about. I have a son. I was talking to our guest before we started recording here tonight. I have a son who works on a Ph.D. in chemistry. I kind of collect PhDs in the Slowinski family, but he's out there and he's working on medicinal chemistry. And he told me, Dad, we don't even start meetings without seeing what AI is doing, what AI can find for us in terms of generating ideas. And these guys are looking for real solutions to illness as they are formulating drugs that will actually, either mitigate symptoms or actually cure illnesses that we are all combating. So there's a lot of good out there potentially that we have AI that we haven't even thought about yet. But our scientists are starting to really try to use it in a way that's extremely helpful. I hope it goes to other sectors and doesn't scare everyone. So with that, I'll start with our first guest, Shenoa. Your thoughts, and then maybe give us a couple examples of how you're using AI in with your clients and teaching people not to be afraid of it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how there's so much fear out there. And I think one of the problems is that it's a great hook, like for social media. It's a great way of getting a lot of people's attention, talking about the fear behind AI. But there's actually a lot of good that can come from it. And sometimes people don't realize how symbiotic that relationship is. For example, we wrote an article together, Adolfo and I, about how AI can work with humans in the loop to promote transformational change within companies. And one of the programs I thought was really interesting that I learned about while I was working on different tools that you could introduce into a company in order to improve productivity, user experience, and customer experience was called Agent Assist. And it was from a company called Core.ai. And it's so interesting to watch this program work because while the customer service agent is sitting there, they have an entire dashboard that gives them more information than they would ever get just talking on a phone by themselves or working with technology programs. So while they're looking at it, the AI on the side is reading the sentiment of the person that they're talking to and giving them like a smiley face, or, maybe this person's a little bit upset. Here's how you tone down the conversation. And if the person on the line needs something corrected, like it's fraud, rather than having to switch screens and go to a different program, the agent just can click and it's integrated with the rest of the technology. So you can just solve somebody's problem in record time, which makes the other person happy. And so the other person will never know that the AI is going on through the agent, but they'll get the benefit of it. And then the post-call wrap-up and notes allow you to have somebody go back and say, oh, this is what happened on the call, without considerable effort. So I think that there's a lot of benefits to using AI, and just getting over that fear will get us in a better direction.
Yeah, because it's coming no matter what. And I think when you look at economic red lines and I think the markets and pure economics will drive where things go. I think people are also afraid of losing jobs. So with that, I want to get over to Adolfo. Adolfo, welcome. What are you seeing? You have a vast experience in the banking sector, have a business degrees and experience. How are banks and financial institutions using AI effectively and securely without our knowing about it?
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. And to complement what Shenoa, I was just talking about, I totally agree with how useful and how great as tools to support how our daily work AI has turned, especially in the last couple of years. And also, complementing Shinoa's opinion too, I believe that AI is AI fear is mostly based on the misconception that AI capabilities are going to replace human capabilities. And for the most cases, including banking and many other industries, that's not the purpose of AI. AI in banking in specific is a tool to support the banking business in many different aspects of the operations. Where you can see it in a more tangible way nowadays is in the customer support, customer experience side of things, but also within the internal operations and the banking institutions. There's a lot of AI driving risk decisions, driving many actions and operations triggered by certain conditions in the market, in the regulatory landscape, or even in the economy as a system.
So it's out there, Adolfo, but I guess other people like me want to know, how much training do people in these very important sectors? So let's talk about energy, banking, finance, health, where there's tons of information. And then Shenoa talked about a computer system integrating with the AI kind of seamlessly. That makes people nervous, right? And so what kind of training do people get? Does the AI just get sprung on you and it just does its thing, or what is the training like for people if they're introducing AI into their organization?
Well, and it's interesting thing, and the latest developments in AI is this ability many systems now have to interact using natural language processing and ChatGPT like tools or other type of live interaction with users. And that may make people think that they don't need any training to interact with system because they speak the same language and they can impersonate human beings. But the truth is that there has to be a minimum understanding of the capabilities, the limitations, the conditions under those systems works, and therefore the likability or the probability of those systems to deliver wrong data or biased data. So on the one hand, there's a sort of acknowledgement and awareness type of training, and then there's a technical training in terms of how to use and how to interact with specific systems. And then as a third pillar in the training context, I would say the ethics part. So whenever
We're going to
you're
get to that in a second about governance
Okay.
and ethics, but I wanted to get back to Shenoa and ask her about, Shenoa and I worked on trade negotiations, and you should have been on our tariff show when I was telling people, all these people that are the sky is falling and they're running around and their hair's on fire. They never sat like we did fighting over frozen peas, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be better. But I was thinking about the work that we did together, working on trade negotiations and for our government and IP, right? Internet intellectual property and AI.
Yeah.
Is that a concern? Is that something that you are looking into and helping your clients with? Because there is the idea that AI can get in there and steal stuff, that AI can get in there for good and for bad. And how do you kind of prevent AI from kind of doing some things you don't want it to do?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, intellectual property is quite a big problem right now, and there's been a number of different lawsuits that have already come up. One has been over books. So there's been concern because with an LLM, a large language model, you need to feed it data. This model is only as good as the information that you give it. It's not an oracle, so it's not a special magic box that just gets information out of nowhere. So really it's about where can it get more information to train itself and calibrate itself and use it. And so it's great to be able to look up a book, but just remember the person who wrote that book may never have given permission for their information to have been looked up in the first place. There's questions about photos, especially as you're starting to get into the imagery.
Artwork, right? Graphic designers are probably just so upset.
Yeah, there was a famous, I can't remember the name of the famous Japanese artist who recently was quite upset because people were trying to imitate his style of, I don't know if it's cartoons or Japanimation, but
yeah, the anime stuff.
yeah, and so he had a particular style that he had spent decades building, and people were asking AI to come up with that version of what their family would look like, and it would do it in an instant. And so he had issue with the fact that it was taking a style that he owned and then mass producing it for people without any sort of royalties or any sort of permission. And even when it comes to social media, there's a lot of talk about, everybody wants to do our podcasts or, our TikToks or whatnot, and monetize that. But then at the same time, there's thoughts about how that's going to be used for AI because it's going to have to understand how humans work and what we say and what's important. So it'll be a constant content eating machine, I guess you would call it. So yeah.
So you're talking about what's getting input into the system and that dynamic, which leads to the production, what comes out the other end, what's the output. I think about my high school computer science teacher. I only remember two things from that guy. First is bad toupee. And the second thing was garbage in, garbage out. Right. Yeah. And he was talking about programming. And I think we were working on something like Pascal. I don't know what we were doing. It was after COBOL. I mean, that's how old I am. But we were working on just really old school programming. And he kept telling us, if you're going to input information that's bad, you shouldn't expect something great to come on the other end. But I think the expectations for people out there is that AI actually is like the movies right now already. And it's thinking and teaching itself and growing and learning from mistakes. Shed a little light on that, and then I'll turn it over to, we'll segue over to governance with Victor, our producer, who knows a lot about this stuff, or is at least excited about it. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think there's like four things that people need to remember about AI. It doesn't necessarily work on its own. Like whatever stories you hear, there's four key characteristics. One, you need a human in the loop. Two, hallucinations. AI hallucinates. It's
And
also
fabricates, doesn't it? Does it fabricate too?
it
Or
fabricates.
is that a synonym in the term? I don't know what the term of art is.
Also a little bit of a sycophant. It really is. It's like a mirror. Like it's like you're looking into yourself. Like it's only as good as you are.
Yeah, no, understood. So what are the, I interrupted you there. So what are the other ones? You got those two.
It's important to think about sentiment as well. So it does do sentiment analysis. That was actually a tool that was developed by the government, which is kind of interesting. That's been commercialized, but I think it's a fantastic tool. Also guardrails. People need to remember that there need to be guardrails because, again, AI is only as good as the humans that it imitates. And unfortunately, like if you look through history or sometimes current events, there's not so savory things that happen, and putting guardrails in place helps to prevent AI from doing things that may be not so beneficial.
That's a great point. It's a great segue for governance. So Victor, producer Victor, who's usually behind the scenes, is first time on the screen with us, showing how young and beautiful he is. Victor, what do you think about how do you govern something like this that's so big and so potentially influential in every aspect of our lives?
Thank you, Dr. Slowinski. And before getting to governance component, I just wanted to make a point on Shenoa's comment regarding the end user journey and customer experience, right? Because we're all end users and we all use banking and services on a daily basis. And I think the last thing that people enjoy is when companies just hide behind chatbots and systems to replace workers, to Adolfo's comment, right? Where it's not supplementing their natural talents and allows them to be better and do a better job, like in the good example that we explored earlier in the conversation, but where it's essentially just replacing the human touch that we, I think, all prefer over sitting there on the phone and trying to figure out how to get over that wall through the menu to get connected to an actual customer representative. I had really angry moments before trying to go through that customer journey. And then when it comes to governance, right? I attended multiple events. One was here when ChatGPT was introduced. In fact, when ChatGPT was rolled out, I remember that morning really well. Hopefully one day I'll be 70, 80 years old. I'll be very nostalgic about that moment because I woke up in my dorm room on campus at Arizona State University. And I think I was one of the first users. I firmly believe that because I signed up for ChatGPT and I just started talking to it. I was flabbergasted. I didn't believe what's going on. I thought I might be still dreaming. And I started telling my friends about it. So I showed up in class and my group was working on a project. I'm like, hey, we can use this tool. Check it out. This is crazy. It does all these things. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll check it out later. It felt surreal because people still haven't quite discovered the full potential, right? But I already knew we're onto something. And then, of course, things picked up and people started discussing the potential. And then the risk topic came up, right? What potential bad sides could it have? And how do we even manage this huge thing as artificial intelligence? And one of the first events that I attended at the law school was precisely on this topic. AI governance and how do we create regulation around it. And I can tell you that in 2, 3, 4 hours of this conversation, no one really gotten to the point of how do we actually do it. So I think the short answer is today we're not quite capable to even wrap our minds around managing and regulating something as powerful and as fluid as artificial intelligence. And what makes matters worse, we know what happens when overregulation interferes with technology, right? We're not going to be able to expect really good outcomes. And a lot of people already complain that those large language models that are accessible to public just feel a little less creative and perhaps they have even more bias. There's been many comparison of different political sides trying to ask questions about their favorite candidates, right? And we know how different those responses can be. So I want to really pass it over to you and get your opinions on, do you think we're at the stage where we can even talk about regulation, or it's too early yet and we don't really understand how to regulate something as large and fluid as AI?
Well, I'm not a banker. I'm not a financial expert. I mean, I did a lot of economics and educational finance stuff in my life. So I'm familiar with things, but I bet I know who will know a little bit about this. This is Adolfo, right? If there's any sector out there, it's banking and finance that's already thinking about how do we secure this and protect this stuff. And because they have the bottom line of losing money or making a lot of money. So Adolfo, we'll go over there. How do we govern or regulate AI so that it's used fairly and legally and to people's advantage, as opposed to just maybe the advantage of the government or a big organization that's taking advantage of users?
Well, not being an expert in that precise field of the development of AI in the industry, I can tell that the path it seems to be following, it's in terms of accountability. And as Shenoa said, keeping a human in the loop, in this case, keeping human beings as accountable for all decisions, every actions made within institutions. I'm sure you all remember Terminator, the Judgment Day. It was triggered because an AI made a decision, and they considered humans were a threat, and therefore they had to eliminate all human beings. Well, nobody wants that to happen in real life. But from a practical standpoint, nobody wants to be facing a situation where a bad thing happened with my money, my account, or my business, and no human is accountable. There has to be someone to be blamed on.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. And I appreciate that. And so, yeah, we'll have you on again in the future. But I'm wondering, it's interesting when rules in your home or in a school or laws in a country are created. It's usually because somebody did something bad, and then the rules come in or whatever because you don't want that to happen again. Not always, but that's the general premise of that. And so I think as we see AI get into trouble and people are, I'm afraid of scammers, the scammers that call and they say they're from a bank or whatever, and they end up getting these little old ladies to send $20,000 in gift cards to these guys that are out somewhere in another country. And I'm wondering if they can channel, because these aren't dumb people. I'm wondering if they can channel AI to help them with the criminal aspects. Shenoa, you're kind of nodding your head. Is that a concern you're all thinking about already?
Yeah, no, I've got a couple really good examples. So one is actually local to me. So I live in Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Florida, and there's a company, a cybersecurity company here that's famous called Know Before. And so their whole premise is cybersecurity, but they do hire remotely. And they had somebody who was a North Korean operative that they hired that had a fake identity, that had a fake avatar, who got into their systems. And they didn't even know it until it was too late. I mean, they shipped this person a laptop. This person had a different identity when they showed up on camera. This person had all kinds of documents, and is incredibly destructive to that company. Some of this is in cybersecurity is like, especially when you target really high level people like CEOs, is called whale phishing.
Mm-hmm.
And it has happened to CEOs that I know. They have had people do deep fakes of them in order to try to get employees to transfer money, which has happened with some CEOs.
And they're using AI in the process of all
They're
this.
using AI because they're recreating the image and the sound and everything, and to a point where we've gotten used to, since COVID, being on Zoom and being remote. And I would say that's one of the reasons why people are trying to go back to the office and there's a lot more in person or who you know, is because, how can you trust what you see on a screen anymore or
Well,
hear?
and that's the thing, right? In social psychology, we have this concept of proximity, and you're more likely to treat people the way you would want to be treated when you have actual physical distance that's not that much between each other. And I think they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder. That's not true. I think with the more separation I see between, companies and their equipment, their computers, their headquarters, whatever it may be, and their actual employees, I think we could get ourselves in trouble. So that's a great point. I want to swing back though to maybe Victor again. You're a younger guy. Yeah, everything is bright in your future, I hope, and for all of us too, as we are looking at AI and how it can help us. Victor, have you seen any things in your life where AI has been a positive influence already and impacted your life positively, besides being the first guy at ASU who got onto ChatGPT first?
It was really sad that it was released the month around the time I was graduating. So very unfair finishing your master's degree, realizing you could have had that tool for all these years, and now students are just, not going to comment on that, but it's actually a big challenge for universities. And I really admire those professors that understand if you can beat them, join them, and they come up with more creative tasks around AI that actually...
You're still in my thunder, so you have to go back to something that in AI that you, because remember, I'm the guy in academics. So
absolutely.
What have you, as a younger person, this is what I'm asking you.
Of course.
You seem to have a very positive outlook on AI, probably more than some of us that are a little bit older and are used to doing things the way we've done them for a long time. That's normal. But what have you seen recently as a younger person that kind of gives you hope?
I can tell you that this is the tool I use on a daily basis, right? And I work for a large company which also embraces technology. And part of my work is, for example, to work with co-pilots. You can really help people, especially as we mentioned before in customer service function, improve their work and streamline those processes by utilizing a combination of automation and AI, right? And it really is a support tool as opposed to a replacement tool. Besides that, in my personal life, I like to create, and this podcast is a testament to that, right? You look into modern pieces of software like Adobe, Premiere Pro, right? All of those companies now embed more and more tools that editing a video, for example, and creating pieces of visual content, it would have taken me hours or days before, and I can now accomplish in a couple of minutes. It really enables you to be a little bit more creative, and I'll just finish this thought with the idea that to me, AI is a big enabler because it allows you to focus on the question, on the topic, as opposed to implementation, right? So you focus on what instead of how. You really, in my case, I jot down ideas. I really try to spit it all out on paper or ChatGPT interface. And then with all this chunk of content, I start processing and refining and getting to the holy grail, right? Because in the past, especially being a foreigner and a first-generation immigrant, language barrier, things of that nature, they really push you to, okay, how do I frame this? How do I phrase it? And you end up wasting so much time on the wrapper, on things that don't matter as much.
Yeah, well, listen, you started the last topic I wanted to bring to our guest today, and Adolfo already touched on this, and that's the ethical part. I'll just start with my own experience as a professor at a couple universities. I'm adjunct because I don't have time to actually be a real professor. So I do adjunct and I love it. But I can't tell you how many meetings I've had with universities and how we handle and approach academic honesty and using AI. We've already talked about, Shenoa, about hallucinating or fabricating, whatever it's called, where the AI will come and make up stuff. Graduate students have been very frustrated to find out that AI actually goes in and combines articles, combines names of authors, changes the names of the year. And then when their professors try to just go back and find it, we can never find that article because AI made it up. It's not real. But then there's the other question is, how are we going to judge someone's ability to really process information and learn and share that information that's theirs and their own ideas when we've got AI out there? So we'll start with Shenoa, then back over to you, Adolfo.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I do watch my son use it. I mean, he upgraded in ChatGPT because it helped him tutor for AP physics. So, I mean, I thought it was great because he's using it to learn. He does use it to create things too. And I think on the side, I've also had an Etsy store. That's kind of random, but I do like graphic arts
Oh,
and
wow.
put it on stuff. Yeah, I like it's a long story, mid-century modern stuff. But it's hard now because Etsy used to be about creativity and originality. But increasingly, people just rip off your work and then throw it on something and say that it's theirs, which I mean, we all know we worked with the US Patent and Trade Office on various different things when we were State Department. You're not really supposed to do that, but how much money are you going to spend to police it? You know what I mean, Patrick?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's a great point. I think in Adolfo, you're originally from Chile, but you've done your
Yeah.
degrees in the United States, pre-AI or right around AI. You're doing one now, a doctoral degree. So how's it
Yeah,
affecting you as a student and a recent graduate student, now a PhD student?
well, no, I actually did my master's in Spain, but it was pre-GPT era.
Oh, okay. So what
Yeah,
about now? Where are you doing your PhD in
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 Spain
Europe?
too. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, in Murcia. Yeah, and I made these distinctions pre-GPT, not pre-AI, because AI has been there for a long time. It's been there for decades. It's just that it it didn't have the hype before, but every time you navigate in your GPS and it gives you driving instructions avoiding traffic or avoiding peak hours, it's AI helping you. Or anytime a financial management system give you risk ratings, is AI analyzing data and giving you outcomes from machine learning and other algorithms. Social media, it's been using preference-based algorithms for decades. That's the core of what they do, actually. But GPT, large language models, is a new animal. We didn't have the technology, the technical capabilities to release things like that until a couple of years, and it's been revolutionary in many ways. Uh, but and this is my personal opinion. I think we as human race are safe because even if it turns very sophisticated, very complex in terms of mixing and blending data from different sources and providing every time more and more elaborated outcomes, it lacks of inspiration, it lacks of the human response to needs, and it just answer to requests,
That's
basically.
right. There's nothing like humanity, right? Yeah, it's sort of like, you know it when you see it, right? You know it when
Absolutely.
you feel it, and we can sense. I'm not so great because I don't always have my glasses on, right? I can't even see it. And my kids, their favorite things like, Dad, that's AI. Dad, don't buy that. That's AI, right? When it comes to art or something like that, they
Yeah.
want me to have something from a human being, which I agree with. Well, listen, this has been a great conversation. I want to just give final words here. I guess my question or my prompt for you both, and actually for all three of you, is: should we be really nervous about AI, or what's the best approach? Should we just jump into it and see what happens, or are we right to be cautious, Shenoa?
I think it's a really good question. I think that I'm adventurous. I think it depends on your personality. I'm adventurous. I think we have to get past that. There are. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always going to be something new. This is it at the moment. It is a big deal, but the more that you're afraid of it, the less you're going to embrace it. And it's really important that everybody embraces it because kind of like when computers came up. And I think there was, what was it? There was one movie about, everybody having to learn a new IBM system or something like that. I forgot which one it was. I think it was Hidden Figures. Like she goes to the library, she starts studying, like,
Right. It's a great movie, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, she's like, I understand that this new computer system's coming and you're not going to need mathematicians
It
anymore.
had key cards in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
The
it's
old punch cards. Yeah.
oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. It's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Great
So
movie. I hope people see it.
exactly. And I think that's a really good analogy. It's like
Mhm.
she's like thinking forward, like, what do I need to do next in order to be relevant, in order to join this new world? And I hope everybody can think of it that way and maybe talk more about how collaborative it is and what the potential solutions are. Because while we always need to have guardrails, we need to have ethics, we need to have all that stuff. If we mire ourselves down the details and get worried about it, we'll also be less competitive. Like when we talk about trade policy and whatnot, we always have to think comparative and competitive in terms of economics. And I think it's really important to remember that because China has gotten ahead in some ways. And so the more that we can embrace it, like all around, it's just a net benefit, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. Adolfo, last words for you on AI. Should we fear it, embrace it, run away? What should we do?
No, and here I believe I talk with authority and specialists in the change management field, and I think it's all about adopting it as whatever's your context, as an assistant, as a support tool, as something will help you to enhance your outcomes. It will help you. Don't be afraid of it unless you're lazy and you allow your boss to replace you by an AI system.
Thank you. Victor, producer Victor, last words.
Yeah, I love
What's
that
your
question.
prognosis?
I think embracing it is a great choice, but staying cautious is extremely important. My big concern is that humans, from the evolutionary perspective, right, tend to sometimes choose the path of least resistance. So if it's going to take me less energy to produce an output because there is a tool that can help me with it, there might be more temptation to go that path, right? So outsourcing thinking is what I'm really afraid of, and I don't really want to see people outsourcing more and more of their thinking into the technology, which might potentially lead to us losing authenticity as a nation and as humanity. But otherwise, I'm on the same train. I really think we need to embrace it as long as we can bite a fair piece that we can actually digest afterwards without getting into the Terminator scenario.
All right. Well, thank you, Victor, for wrapping us up with that. And big kudos and gratitude and thanks to our guests tonight, Shenoa Simpson and Adolfo Carreño. Thank you both. And next time we're on, I think on top of mind, we've had so much going on in the political sphere. We were kind of moving to other items that are top of mind that people are concerned about. And next week, we are going to have an expert on Bitcoin in Japan. So hope that people would join in and a former diplomat again, Shenoa. There's a pattern of us going out and doing different things after we're diplomats. But he has set up a great business in Japan with Bitcoin and is going to give us some do's and don'ts about and his idea of where Bitcoin is going. So thank you both again, and thank you for joining Top of Mind. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
In a world full of noise, clarity is power. Stay informed, stay aware, stay top of mind.